Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Raiderlance, and
IceyEyedGnome.
I know it has been a while. I'm still trying to learn how to video edit. Clearly, it has not been going well, but IEG convinced me to drag me away from my labors in learning video editing to cover a story real quick. So, how you been doing, brother?
I've been doing pretty good, man.
Well, that is a lie, because we spoke earlier, and it sounds like we both got in trouble today as married men.
I plead the fifth. 100%.
So here is the advice I have to young men. When you close your eyes at night and you're like, okay, I made it through another day with this woman, you need to understand that there's a second war that goes on while she's asleep, and you might become the casualty when she wakes up. I'm just saying. That happened to me today. Apparently, I'm an asshole. Well, I am an asshole, but in her dreams, I was way worse. So,
I was about to say, apparently, it's...
In other good news, we have some news dealing with Mr. Johnathan Majors. As you can see, I pulled up this Guardian article. He got himself in a tad bit of trouble. And the reason why we want to talk about this is IEG's wonderful and famous video on Quantumania. Covered him a little bit as Senor Kang in the MCU. So what are your initial thoughts before we get into the facts of this?
So initially, I was just kind of caught off guard. I wasn't on social media platforms yesterday very much. But this morning, I woke up and there was just a plethora of different memes and posts and that kind of stuff about Johnathan Majors. So the first one that I saw, I forget the exact verbiage, but it was something along the lines of like Johnathan Majors arrested for abuse, like strangulation and that kind of stuff. Those were the first few headlines I saw. And so I was honestly shocked to see that.
I mean, it's so common now. I don't get shocked anymore, but I am glad you brought this to my attention. Okay, so for the first half, we're going to analyze it. I'm going to put on my lawyer hat, and I'm going to go over the facts, the allegations, and what the possible charges could be. And then shit's going to go off the rails, and we're going to go Bill Burr on this one and talk about what TMZ said and what we think would happen and what may or may not likely happen. And I'm sure if you are easily offended, do not listen to the second half of this one. So, you ready, brother?
Old reliable, old TMZ.
Old reliable. All right, so I'm going to do a bit of reading. I apologize while I stutter and stumble through my words, but let's get into the facts. So the Guardian, very reputable news source, said Johnathan Majors arrested in New York after police were called for a domestic dispute. All right, so he is being charged with strangulation, assault, and harassment after a woman sustained head and neck injuries. All right, so a little bit more into it. Let's just call her the victim, a 30-year-old woman, sounds like Saturday, so March 25th, called the police at about 11 a.m., made a 911 call. She was in Chelsea neighborhood of Manhattan. The victim informed the police that she was assaulted. The officers placed the 33-year-old male into custody without incident, which is Mr. Majors. The victim sustained minor injuries to her head and neck and was removed to an area hospital in stable condition.
That's the information that was available to the public last evening. And I don't think anything else came out until this afternoon about it. It was just all stipulation and allegations until this afternoon when there were more statements released by his attorney.
So here was my first initial reaction. I have never heard of domestic abuse happening around brunch time. So I was a little confused at the 11 a.m. phone call to 911. I mean, to wake up in your morning, just having eaten, having your OJ, and just start smacking a woman and choking her. I was really confused about that. But fortunately, old TMZ cleared it up for us. But again, that's going to be more of the gossip column. So let's get back to the facts. All right, we have from Deadline.com, the U.S. Army pauses multi-million-dollar ad campaign featuring Johnathan Majors after his arrest. So I didn't know this, but he apparently was going to be the face of the new Be All You Can Be ads by the Army. I mean, most people don't know what those were. Growing up, I'm sure you and I both saw, people in the Army being tough, jumping out of helicopters, you're crawling through the sand and the sea, and it was a very manly message and saying, be all you can be, join the Army. Well, I guess they're bringing this back. So Spokesperson of the Army Enterprise Marketing Office, which oversees the DDB ad and executes the marketing efforts, stated, "The U.S. Army is aware of the arrest of Johnathan Majors, and we are deeply concerned by allegations surrounding his arrest," as they should be. She continued later on, "While Mr. Majors is innocent until proven guilty, prudence dictates that we pull our ads until the investigation into these allegations is complete." I think this is really reasonable. They condemn those actions. And they want to just hold off on the ads until they, figure out whether or not they want this guy to be their spokesman and what's the full story. They talk about innocent until proven guilty. I think I normally don't like people being reactionary to allegations, but in this type of a circumstance for marketing purposes, I think it's reasonable to just pause until you get the full story. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a reasonable approach to the situation. I'm glad they acted quickly. We've seen some companies in the past kind of drag their feet to allegations that may or may not have been much more severe.
I wonder if the speculation on my part, but it's based in reason. The Army is predominantly young males full of testosterone, locked away typically with just mostly other males, and taught to be aggressive for the purposes of being in the military. I am sure the Army deals with domestic accusations, crimes all the time. And so maybe they may have more of a maturity level in dealing with this, and maybe they might be more reasonable. They see where there's false allegations, they see where there are true allegations, and they have learned, hey, let's just do our investigation, let's hold off, let's try to figure out what actually happened, and then we'll start making longer term decisions. Just a theory on my part. We have a statement here by Priya Chaudhry, who was Mr. Major's criminal defense lawyer who was hired. But before we get into her statement, let's go into the actual charges that Mr. Majors may be finding. So I did a little bit of digging, not a New York attorney, but with the charge of strangulation. So there's strangulation in the first degree, strangulation in the second degree. Those are both felonies. Just ballparking it here. Strangulation in the first degree, you're choking them until they're unconscious or killing them. Second degree, it's, leaving them on the floor gasping for air, right? I don't know if Mr. Majors, and you'll hear, according to TMZ, eyewitness accounts of what happened. It doesn't sound like it would be to that extent. I would be really surprised. So then what do you do if it's not strangulation? Well, there is this other charge, and it's New York Penal Law, Section 121.11. It's criminal obstruction of breathing or blood circulation. You can be prosecuted for the crime of obstruction of breathing or blood circulation if you apply pressure on the throat or neck of another person or block their nose or mouth with the intent to impede that person's normal breathing of circulation or blood. So, I mean, that's kind of putting their hands on somebody else's throat and just, kind of controlling them that way. And they give an example for People versus Figueroa, for a New York State case. In that case, the witness observed that the man placed his left hand on the woman's throat and his right hand on the back of her neck. The woman's color turned white, her eyes bugged out of struggling for air. The witness stated that the choke lasted for 2 to 3 seconds. That sounds to be more plausible in an argument of a domestic dispute in this type of a situation. So I know the news is calling it strangulation. I hope to God that's not the case, whether it's first degree or second degree. I hope it's more of this criminal obstruction of breathing or blood circulation. And what is that? It's a misdemeanor, Class A misdemeanor. All right, so next, let's go into this idea of assault. Well, with assault, again, you have, first degree, second degree. You have all these different levels of assault. Which one is it? Is it going to be in third degree, which is, another misdemeanor, or is it going to be first degree? Again, I hope it's the third degree, which is the least one. It's also going to be a misdemeanor. And this one is where you just intentionally physically injure another person. You injure, or you can injure a third party when you intended to injure another person. That's just putting your hands on them, right? And then the last one is this harassment charge, which was threw me off a little bit. But what I'm thinking is it was New York Penal Code 240.26, and that is harassment in the second degree. And the reason is you can commit second degree harassment in ways that you would think were far from criminal or illegal. According to New York Penal Code 240.26, you are guilty of this offense if you have an intent to harass, annoy, or alarm some person, and you strike them in some manner or make physical contact with them or attempt to do so. Follow them in a public area or engage in a course of conduct of annoyance or alarming. So I don't think it's 2 or 3. I think if they're going to hit him with this harassment, it would probably be harassment of second degree. And it's because he put his hands or made physical contact with them. So I'm thinking all of these are probably going to be misdemeanors, which means likely no jail time, not going to be a felony. You know, felonies are typically described as crimes punishable by something over a year in jail. So I'm not trying to minimize what happened or that it was okay or acceptable, but all this attention in this news is probably because of his popularity and not the severity of the crime, right? Like when we had the Rihanna, Chris Brown incident, she got roughed up. And so everybody was taken aback at how much physical damage she sustained by his assault. I'm not getting the impression that's what we're talking about here. And TMZ goes a little bit and describes, the laceration. Doesn't say welts, but it's, a couple bruises or contusions. I was a bit thrown off by that, but we will read it from there. All right. So, IEG, what do you think so far?
I think this incident should be investigated, and I think that we should find out what really happened as much as we can, right, by listening to whatever reports come out and then in the coming days.
The lawyer in me agrees. That's how far as I'll go. All right, so let's get back to the Deadline.com article. So Mr. Majors again hired an attorney, Priya Chaudhry. I'm going to try to avoid showing images because that's a rough go, but of Miss Chaudhry. All right, but she gives a very intelligent statement that provides us a lot of details. Now, again, this is his defense attorney. As an attorney, that means she's going to give only Mr. Major's side, right? So it's going to be biased. All right, so, and I quote, Johnathan Majors is completely innocent and is provable the victim of an altercation with a woman he knows. We are quickly gathering the presenting evidence to the district attorney with the expectation that all charges will be dropped imminently. This evidence includes video footage from the vehicle where the episode took place, witness testimony from the driver and others who both saw and heard the episode, and most importantly, 2 written statements from the woman recanting these allegations. All evidence proves that Mr. Majors is entirely innocent and did not assault her whatsoever. Unfortunately, this incident came about because the woman was having an emotional crisis for which she was taken to a hospital yesterday. The NYPD is required to make an arrest in these situations, and this is the only reason Mr. Majors was arrested. We expect these charges to be dropped soon. End quote. All right. So first question, were they in a taxi cab or an Uber? They're in New York, right? There was some dash cams. So I'm going, well, you know what? I don't know New York anymore. I assume it's taxi cabs, and I know they've tried to phase out Uber to protect their taxi licenses out there. Either way, this is on film. There were witnesses, I'm assuming at least the driver. If there is a statement from the woman, alleged victim, recanting these allegations, good luck getting a prosecution. The only other way is if you submit the video evidence, then you don't need the woman's testimony. So they could still easily have a case. If that's the situation where victim recants, video evidence, then it becomes a political matter of the district attorney's office. Are they hard on crime? Do they want to make an example of you? Is it not worth their time? Not sweep it under the rug, but can they just make it go away with community service and that type of stuff? In those type of situations, it's going to be who that district attorney is and whether or not they want to make a name off of your name. Unfortunately, it comes down to politics. I have no idea other than obviously the district attorney over there is soft on crime in New York. They're letting people out of their jails. They have, I think that the no bail, no cash bail system implemented over there. They're letting people out for serious crimes all the time. I think this is going to go away very quickly, whether he's guilty or not guilty from it as an attorney. What's your opinion on this?
It's going to, like you said, it will probably be very difficult for them to try or convict convict Johnathan Majors. But yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with everything that you said.
So again, coming from an attorney's perspective, there are 2 paragraphs here, right? First paragraph, totally great. Second paragraph, she should have just said one sentence. The New York is required to make an arrest in these situations, and that's the only reason Mr. Majors was arrested. But for her to turn around and say that he's entirely innocent, he didn't assault her whatsoever. This came about because the woman was having an emotional crisis and she went to the hospital for it yesterday. I mean, come on, man.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's good PR, right?
Come on, man. If that's not twisting what would likely happen, I don't know what that is. And let's just jump into the gossip portion of the TMZ, which will fill out the details for you guys. All right. So at 5:03 p.m., a judge released Mr. Majors without bail. Again, New York, no bail system, no cash bail. At his Saturday night arraignment in Manhattan court, prosecutors charged the actor with misdemeanor assault. Oh, there we go. Aggravated harassment, attempted assault, and harassment. So no mention of the strangulation there. Okay. So I'm not sure who was correct, but these are going to be misdemeanors. That's the good news. All right. Now, here is what allegedly happened. Per TMZ's law enforcement sources, good to go, spilling the bean, guys. Police were told that the alleged victim, Mr. Major's girlfriend, and according to her, they got in an argument while in a taxi returning home from a bar in Brooklyn. All right, I should have read this better. So, yeah, there we go. Taxi for the win. Our sources say police were told the girlfriend saw another woman texting Majors, and she confronted him. I would like to know what the hell confronted means. All right. Trying to sneak a peek at his phone. If anybody has ever been texted by another woman in front of their woman, in the history of never has a woman tried to sneak a look at your phone. All right. All right. Back to the article. We're told the alleged victim girlfriend claims that Mr. Majors got mad and then he alleged grabbed her hand and allegedly slapped her. All right. We're also told the alleged victim claims that he put his hand around her neck during this. Our sources say the woman was dropped off somewhere and that Johnathan Majors spent the night elsewhere. It appears the girlfriend went to the police the following morning, Saturday, to report the crime. Well, that explains the 11 a.m. phone call. Now, our sources tell us the alleged victim had visible injuries, including a laceration behind her ear, redness, and marks to her face. She was taken to an area hospital, so that explains the hospital visit, and is in stable condition. As for Majors, he was cuffed and taken to jail on spot, as the police felt there was enough evidence for probable cause. Now, here's my thing. As someone who has punched and been punched for over a decade, if she called the police at 11, she got attacked that evening, called the police at 11 a.m. the next evening, so let's say 8 hours has gone past, unless they were lacerations, will not go away. Redness and marks to her face, they had to be pretty substantial if they didn't go away. I would say redness goes away within an hour or two. Marks, I mean, you're talking about bruising, and so that had to be a little bit significant. I don't think that was just a slap. I don't think those were just handprints, if that's true. So what are your initial reactions?
So I would say that if this incident took place, I'm assuming late night on a Friday, and it wasn't until 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday that she reported the incident. We don't know any real time frame of like when this alleged attack took place. If there were marks or bruises or lacerations sustained, we don't have any physical or photographic evidence of that. So it's really hard to guess what actually happened. I will say that if the victim has already recanted their statements, that could be because they were suffering some sort of emotional
crisis,
some sort of emotional crisis. And
you know what also could cause an emotional crisis?
Yeah.
Your A-list boyfriend hooking up with other girls.
Yeah.
You losing your meal ticket. Yeah. That's pretty stressful.
Yeah.
That's everybody. That's IEG code for no comment. So let's move on into the fun.
I'm trying to have a happy marriage here. So
all right. Well, let's give our final thoughts. Domestic abuse is wrong. It's actually very ugly. It's very harmful especially if there's children involved. I'm not going to be one of those people. There is no excuse. You should never hit a woman type of blanket statement. There is no need for anyone to go down this route. There's so many things you can do to avoid it. You could not consume alcohol. You cannot cheat. You cannot date somebody with a checkered past or who's violent or aggressive. There's a lot of things that both parties can do to avoid it. And if you're caught in a situation, walk away, especially if you have as much to lose as Mr. Majors. So that's my official statement. What about yours?
Not all cases are reported, right? It happens to some people, and they don't report. So I do believe that the integrity of the victim should be maintained until they're proven one way or the other. But I don't know. None of us were there. None of us know exactly what happened. There has been no evidence presented to the public, but I would say that it's wrong to commit violence in that light in any regard, and there are alternatives.
We got to apportion fault or blame here, right? And what likely happened, we all know. No one wants to talk about it. I'll go ahead and talk about it. First off, Mr. Majors is 33 and he's dating a 30-year-old. He's doing a civil service here, man. If I was an A-list actor who looked like him, I wouldn't be touching anybody in the 30 category. What are you talking about? Right off the bat, he's a good guy. He's a stand-up good guy. Might have not done good things, but right there, y'all know, if you were him, you would not be dating a 30-year-old and up. All right, so first off, we got to give this man credit, right? He probably works with charities, right? So, all right, now second of all, everybody's looking at him as he's Kang, right? You cannot just put this in a vacuum. This is a rich Hollywood celebrity in his prime that looks like this. He looked like prime Mike Tyson when Mike Tyson had abs. He gained 21 pounds of muscle in the last 18 months. You think he did that with prayer and vitamins? Let's see, what were the 3 parts he had to prepare for? What mental space did this man have to be in the last couple of years? Who was he pretending and believing that he was? Well, let's go into it. A multiverse supervillain, a champion boxer, and an obsessed bodybuilder. You think this guy's gonna fucking read poetry to you during an argument? Like, this guy's again, this is the man whose phone you're snatching. If he stole my phone, I don't know if I would snatch it out of his hands. What's going on here? We need context. I want to see the video evidence. I do not think she just looked over at his phone because he was getting a text and being unfaithful. I think some shit was said and he lost control for whatever reason he did. He was wrong. I'm not victim shaming here. I'm just saying if this man told me to park my car where I was parked rightfully, I'd still probably have to move my car. So I wouldn't be picking too many fights with fucking Kang the Conqueror here. You want in on this, IEG?
Not really.
Like what?
I
Here.
love my wife very much, and I love my job, and I respect my friends. There's no way in hell. If I were involved with a man of this level of stardom and his physical physique and that kind of stuff, there's no way in hell. If I looked over and I thought that this man had been cheating on me, I'd be like, hey, you do you, boo boo. You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
You do you and all those 15 girls that you got lined up.
Hey, can I get this new Gucci bag? You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but
this guy's testosterone levels is probably that of a bull used for mating. I mean, what? I mean, look at his freaking abs look like a mosaic tile piece. They're off-centered. You know you got good abs and you're in shape when your abs are off-centered, right? They don't line up. Jesus Christ.
If I had something like that on my abdomen, I'd probably likely see a doctor because it's most likely a tumor. Like, there's no way.
Look at this guy. I'm just saying. Yeah, I'm just saying, young ladies out there. Okay, first, young men. If you want to have a modern day Genghis Khan harem, apparently become a Hollywood star, go on a lot of Mexican supplements, and be rich and famous. And you can do you, and apparently all the women who will flock to you. If you're attracted to riches and fame and be physical specimens, I'm not saying cheating is okay. But I'm saying that there's a statistical probability you will be part of a rotation here. So you do not get mad when somebody who's sitting on the bench is calling to find out when they're going to be put in the game. It's just simple math to me.
Until they're invited to like a red carpet premiere somewhere, they're most likely a side chick with people of his caliber. You know what I mean? Like
not saying he should have hit her. Not saying that at all. Domestic violence is wrong. I'm just saying all of this could have been avoided if he was just honest with her and telling her the number of where she is in the rotation, and that way she could have accepted being in his rotation. Because that is not the face of monogamy. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's definitely like a lesson to be learned about when to pick a fight and with whom. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know all the details. So hopefully, she's okay. And this was nothing,
absolutely,
major, not to use the pun, but, hopefully this was not like a big situation or whatever. And this was, severely damaging to her. I hope she's great.
Not his wife. It's his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Just right off the bat there. I mean, I don't know how long they were together. I don't,
I've never heard about him having this potential girlfriend until she turned him in for alleged abuse. You know what I mean? Like that's
yeah.
That's like being the boyfriend, but not the boyfriend Facebook official. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't
unless he's hyper aggressive, chaotic, super violent, or doing a major stack of roids and run into a roid rage. I do not think this man would fly off the handle, strangle her, smack her, lacerate her because she questioned him about a text message. That seems out of pocket there. I think I pulled up this picture, and this is him walking out of the courthouse, and he's freaking embarrassed. And he should be. He absolutely should be. He lost his shit. He did not handle it properly. That does not look like a wife beater to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This looks like a guy who messed up, should pay the price, and it's most likely not going to be criminal time. It's going to be, in the eyes of the public. He's going to lose out on some roles. He's going to have to rehab his character. He's going to have to work with some domestic abuse shelters, right? He's going to have to go on his PR campaign. And good, fuck him. Shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have been in that situation. Shouldn't have been dating a girl who would push you to that extent. That's all on you, buddy.
Yeah. I mean,
but I don't think he choked her out in the full sense. You know what I mean? In the first degree, second degree sense. I don't think he was pinning her up and punching her, to hold her down. I don't think he was biting her lip like Chris Brown did to Rihanna. Over that, it's just, I think this is something that shouldn't have been news, but because he's a public figure, it is. And they're both going to have to make their apologies. They're going to have to work out their relationship, and hopefully it'll be with more honesty. I don't know.
Yeah, he's one of the hottest Hollywood stars right now. But that photo, like you said to me, looks like genuine shame. And and so I'm sure that he is ashamed of either the act or the allegations. I can't determine which one it is. Again, we don't know all the details. So I hope for his sake and her sake that it was nothing serious. You know what I mean? This is some big misunderstanding and that kind of stuff. I would hate to see her as an individual being hurt, or him as a potential movie star in the next decade of Marvel movies lose his career reputation. I did see a meme earlier on social media that showed an interaction. It was a meme that showed any interaction between Loki and Tony Stark in the first Avengers movie. And it's the scene where Loki says, like, I have an army, and Tony Stark responds, and he's like, we have a Hulk. But it's got DC's logo over Loki's face and Marvel's logo over Tony Stark's, and it's like, we have Ezra Miller, and we have Jonathan Majors. Like.
See, now, I'm glad you brought that out, because Ezra Miller seems like a psycho to me. Right? There's multiple instances, the things he said, the threats he made, the plotting.
The thing about that is, we have seen the video of him doing ridiculous things, like strangling a woman.
Oh my God.
In like a supermarket or something like that. Like, there's a ton of evidence where he is like clearly in some sort of mental distress, right?
I will say though, man, with how big he is, how strong he is, the fact that she got to go home instead of go to the hospital, he didn't lay into her, because he could have easily hurt this woman with minimal effort with how massive and strong this man is. So I'm trying to say he lost control, but still had it somewhat confined. He didn't go ape shit. She's alive. If that man goes ape shit, her and there would have been fallout. That taxi driver would have also been hurt in the melee, right? And so I'm not.
But I mean, like, you at the same time, you also have to understand that, like, yeah, maybe he didn't lose total control, and maybe he didn't beat this woman into submission. But at the same time, like, when you're talking about like the level of severity there, it's, like, where does that train stop, right? So it's like, well, yeah, like, I strangled the crap out of her, she lost consciousness, but I didn't kill her. Or like, I stabbed him, but I stabbed him in the leg. You know what I mean? It's like,
where what it stops is with the charges that can be brought against the man, right? The fact that all of these are misdemeanors show that it was to a lesser degree. He didn't beat the crap out of her because he would have been charged with the felonies, and he could have lightly beat the crap out of her and still done enough damage to get to the felonies. Right? I can go ham on somebody while I'm doing martial arts and sparring. I might not leave as much damage as this guy going light. And so, but my point is there's no way this guy's a monster, right? He clearly, even when he lost control, he didn't really lose control for him, is the only point I'm making. Still wrong. He lost control. He's still in trouble. I'm just saying this guy is not a monster.
I don't know. There's been some other articles and that kind of stuff about like some alleged altercations in the past, or some former altercations that may or may not have taken place, and all those I've just recently seen, and it could just be bandwagon type things where it's like, oh well, yeah, he did the same thing to me in 1994. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like,
well, if that's the case, then I would need to see more evidence. I could be completely wrong. I'm just saying, based on everything I've seen today, the dude is screwed up and needs to pay a price. But again, not a monster.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I really do hope for his sake that this is just some kind of misunderstanding, and that, you know, there were just a lot of, it was a moment of weakness in a very tense situation.
With alcohol involved. Always messes things up.
Clearly, yeah, always does.
Well, the one thing is, if Disney wants to be super PC, with his character, they can always do the Kang variant, right? Just bring on a new variant. That's the sucky part about that. They have an easy eject button for this guy. So
yeah. I mean, it was his real first appearance as Kang, so to speak. So they could, the only continuity issue or whatever that they would have would be with that post-credit scene in Ant-Man and Quantumania. So,
right.
But they could easily fix that. They did that with ugly Thanos in his first cameo appearance. So
that's true. So, all right, we made this little bit of news go long. If you agree, disagree, either way, like, subscribe, share, and we appreciate your time.